This is community property now. That's what Gwendolyn said, loud and proud, on my front porch, right in the middle of my Sunday morning. I'll tell you, those words hit harder than a slap in the face. With a cold, wet towel, there I was, paintbrush still dripping in my hand, looking at the president of our HOA like she'd lost her mind. She had 5 strangers lined up behind her, expecting me to just smile, open my door, and let them stroll through my aunt's old lake cabin like it was the local museum. My home. My sanctuary. Now apparently just part of the tour package. I laughed at first, out loud, because what else do you do when reality jumps the rails that hard? But nope, she was serious. Didn't ask, didn't give me a heads up, just announced the new heritage tour, like I was the obstacle standing between her and her next power trip. I said no, obviously. That's when things really started to unravel. You want to know what a peaceful Sunday looks like? It's sitting at your drawing table with sunlight pouring in across half-finished sketches, the lake outside still as glass, coffee cooling beside you, and that faint lavender smell lingering from the sachets your aunt used to tuck by the door. That's what I had, right up until Gwendolyn's knock shattered it. And I do mean shattered. 3 sharp raps, a pause, then 3 more, like she was the sheriff and I was the wanted man. I opened the door expecting Landon from next door, maybe looking to borrow a wrench. Instead, there's Gwendolyn, decked out in a cream blazer and a leadership smile, flanked by 4 tourists in resort gear, phones out, eyes already roving through the cabin behind me. "Good morning, Callum," she chirped. "We're just swinging by for the heritage tour. Unlock the door for us, won't you?" Like it was all settled, like my own say didn't even matter. I tried to stay polite. "Sorry, I didn't sign up for any tours. This is private property." And you could see the mask slip, a flicker of annoyance, quick as lightning. Then her head tilts and that tone comes out. You know the one. Like she's explaining to a toddler why crayons aren't for eating. "It's the new HOA program, Callum. This cabin has historical significance. You should be proud to support the community." The tourists are watching me now, shifting their weight, impatient. I could feel their stares, like I was the villain in some neighborhood melodrama. But no way was I about to roll over. I need privacy for my work. I'm not comfortable with strangers in my home. My voice felt small, thin as the hope that she'd just back off. Her smile froze, tight as piano wire. "Are you really going to make this difficult for the HOA?" she said, all sweet poison, pausing just long enough for the crowd to catch every syllable. "We're trying to build community, and you're being uncooperative." I could practically see the word problem floating above my head. "I'm just protecting what's mine. Sorry, but no." Her face went hard. She turned to her group and announced, loud enough for the whole street, "Young people today, so selfish. This is exactly the attitude that's killing community spirit." They trailed off down the path, glancing back at me with pity and judgment, like I'd kicked their puppy. I stood there, heart pounding, hands shaking, feeling like I'd just committed a crime by saying no. The quiet was gone, replaced by that heavy click of the lock. Out the window, I watched one of the tourists snap a photo of my home, my private space, like it already belonged to someone else. I made a note on my phone. Sunday, 8:15 a.m., Gwendolyn brought a tour to my door. No warning, called me selfish when I refused. You know when something's off? You just know it in your bones. That was me right then. This wasn't about community. This was about control. About Gwendolyn flexing her title, counting on me to fold. I looked at that old brass lock on my door, the one my aunt polished every spring, and realized peace was gone. And this, I swear, was just the opening round. 3 days later, the letter came. Official envelope, HOA logo, heavy paper, meant to make you feel small. Violation of Regulation 47, it said. Failure to participate in the Community Tourism Initiative. $500 fine. With a threat of $2,000 and suspension of property rights if I didn't pay up in 7 days. Signed, Gwendolyn Harlow. Regulation 47? Never heard of it. I dug out the bylaws, 40 pages of mind-numbing legalese. There was 46, lake dock maintenance. There was 48, tree removal. But number 47. I checked again, fingered down every line. Nothing. Either it was brand new, or she just made it up. I called the HOA office. The secretary, her voice suddenly careful, said she'd check with Mrs. Harlow. I knew then and there I'd get no straight answer. 2 days later, I drove to the office. Myself. The place looked professional, welcoming, even cozy on the outside. Gwen Allen's office was all mahogany desk and brass nameplate. I put the violation letter on her desk. I'd like to see the text of Regulation 47. She smiled. That's the updated version, passed at last month's meeting. Now I felt anger bubbling, but I kept cool. I didn't get any notice about that. She leaned back. All condescending sympathy. If you're not involved, you can't expect to know everything. That's the responsibility of homeownership. All smooth. All meant to make me feel like the problem. I asked for the minutes and vote count. She stood and opened the door. Are you questioning the integrity of this HOA? Be careful. Dismissed. I drove home, mind spinning. If this was legal, I needed proof. I dug into state law. Every amendment to HOA bylaws required 15 days notice to all homeowners. Check my email. Check my mailbox. Nothing. No notice. If Regulation 47 existed, it was illegal. I started a spreadsheet, logging every detail, every threat, every letter. A second letter hit 5 days after the first. Fine up to $2,000 now, plus the threat of losing my right to even use my own property. For saying no to a tour? That's when I called the lawyer. Don't pay that fine, he told me, for words that made my spine stiffen. But the real gut punch came at the Saturday farmers market. People I'd known for years looked at me like I had the plague. The tomato lady counted my change twice. Heard you're having some trouble with the HOA? She whispered. I brushed it off, just a misunderstanding, but she didn't look convinced. By the time I left, Landon wouldn't even meet my eyes. I checked the community message board, something I usually ignored. Gwen Allen had posted 2 days earlier something about personal selfishness blocking progress. Didn't name me, but everyone knew. Comments piled up. Entitled. Antisocial. Hiding something. I closed the laptop, hands shaking, feeling smaller by the second. She'd weaponized the whole community, turned me into the villain without saying my name. Then came the twist, the one that flipped my stomach. This time, it was a thick, certified document from the county, hand-delivered. Consent agreement for seasonal property use, with a signature line already filled in. My signature, but not my hand. I stared at it, heart racing. The C was all wrong, too careful. I called my lawyer, Desmond, right then. Don't touch it. That's evidence. That's forgery. This just went from HOA dispute to criminal fraud. That night, my phone rang. Gwen Allen's name flashed. For a second, I almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity got me. She sounded warm, almost friendly. Why don't you come by the office tomorrow, Callum? We can work this out. I told her, quiet, controlled. You forged my signature on a legal document. Silence. Then she snapped. Be very careful what you accuse me of. Slander's a serious offense. Don't make this worse for yourself. And hung up. Isolation set in, deeper than before. Neighbors turned away. People crossed the path when I walked. The old message board lit up again, now with photos of my cabin, a fresh post. History belongs to everyone, not just one person. The comments were a feeding frenzy. Someone even called me a leech. Then another letter, this time from a law firm. Except it didn't exist. Fake firm, fake threats. I told Desmond, who said, that's intimidation. Keep everything. I started building my case. Filed public records requests, gathered evidence, documented every interaction. It wasn't just about me anymore. And then, the twist. The former HOA secretary, Sutton Merrill, reached out. Can we meet? Over tea at a downtown coffee shop. She slid a folder across the table. Meeting schedules, budget reports, proof there'd been no meeting or vote. She's done this before, made up. Violations, forced families to pay, covered her tracks. But I'm done being silent. If you'll fight, I'll testify. With Sutton and Landon, the neighbor who finally found his courage, I had a team. More people came forward, stories piling up. The lawyer called for a special meeting, demanded county oversight. We were ready for war. Community hall was packed. Gwen Allen sat at the head table, calm as a Sunday school teacher. She called the meeting to order. Let me speak. I laid it out. No Regulation 47, no legal notice, no meeting minutes, and then, projected side by side, my real signature. And the forgery. Sutton took the mic, confirmed it all. Landon told his story. An older couple added theirs. $1, $500 for landscaping that never happened. Then, a county rep stood up. We're opening a formal investigation. All decisions under disputed regulations are suspended. Financial records, 3 years back, to be turned over. Forgery goes to the district attorney. Gwendolyn just stood there, red-faced, speechless. Then she grabbed her purse and walked out. The door slammed. The room erupted. Some people clapped. Others just sat stunned. After that, things changed. Gwendolyn was stripped of her position, fined, investigated. A new board was elected. Margaret, a retired accountant, took the lead. They brought in outside auditors, redid the bylaws, hosted real town halls. Neighbors started talking to me again. Landon came by with a six-pack and an apology. Other folks followed, slowly but surely. Refund checks arrived. Fake violations wiped away. Sutton turned down her old job, went back to school for social work. You fought for all of us, she said. That stuck with me. A reporter wanted to do a story. I almost said no. But the lawyer convinced me. People need to know this happens, and they need to know you can fight. The headline read, "One homeowner's stand exposes HOA corruption." It was about the system, not about me. And then, one Saturday, a kid knocked on my door. Dad says you know the best fishing spots. Will you show me? I did. We threw back the little ones. I felt something break free inside. Me, finally. The cabin was just a cabin again, not a fortress. The lock on the door was just a lock, not a line in the sand. I'd won my right to choose when to open it. I kept my boundaries, stood my ground, found peace on my own terms. Now the HOA runs with transparency. The new board posts minutes, hosts real votes. Landon joined, found his voice. I stayed out of the politics, happy to. Be the illustrator by the lake, the guy who knows when to lock up and when to let people in. Sometimes Oliver, the kid, asks me, "Don't you get lonely out here?" I tell him, lonely and alone aren't the same. I like my space. I like the choice. He nods. That's all you need, really, the right to choose. The courage to stand up when someone tries to take that from you. As fall turned to winter, I wrote everything down, not to publish, just to make sense of it. I tried to understand Gwendolyn, too. Her need for control, her fear of losing power. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it made it feel less personal. She was a warning, not a monster. On quiet mornings, I watched the lake change color in the dawn, think about my aunt and her gift, about boundaries and the simple dignity of being allowed to say no. Sometimes justice is slow, but it comes. The system bent, then it snapped, then it healed. And me? I sit by the window, drawing a fox who learns to trust again, letting the morning light spill across the page, grateful for the freedom to just exist in my own space. That's the victory. Not the headlines, not the meeting, just the ordinary peace of living on your own terms. So let me ask you, where do you draw your line? What would you fight for, even if everyone else turned their back? Tell me your thoughts below. Ever tangled with an HOA? Ever had to stand up for your rights when it felt like you were all alone? I want to hear your stories, your victories, your lessons learned. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this isn't just my story. It's ours. And don't forget, sometimes the only thing standing between you and peace is the courage to lock your own door and the wisdom to open it again when you're ready.